This is part 4 of my testimony. This is my first home in Arlington, Texas. And again, I'm reading from my testimony. That's about 44 pages or so, how God saved me from me, if you're wondering. My first home in Arlington, Texas. I only remember a few things about the first home I grew up in. I have to say I was about 2 to 4 years old. I remember my room very clearly, though. The home was an older home. The garage had been converted into a living room. I was later told that 2 men working on a car in what used to be the garage before we moved in fell on them and killed them. There were a few times when my dad, mom, and I would come home and all the doors and windows were open. My parents would call the police, and even the police were afraid to go into our home. They wouldn't ever go into the attic, but they would shine their lights up there and then check the rest of the house before leaving. They couldn't ever find any evidence of forced entry. I always felt like something was trying to get me, but sometimes when we reflect on our younger years, we find excuses and answers for things just so we can feel better. Who knows if anything was trying to get me, but it sure felt like it. Only God knows what else I saw in that house and blocked out of my memory. I always found myself running down the hallway into the bathroom. The bathroom was my safe haven from whatever was chasing me. Once I was at home with my dad. I don't know where my mother was, but I do remember she wasn't at home with us. I was playing in the backyard in the dirt with my dump truck. My dad opened the door and yelled at me to get into the house. When I got into the doorway, he kicked me in the rear like a football player kicking a field goal. I'm surprised my diaper didn't fall off. I either hit the washer or the dryer. I don't remember what happened after that. One time I remember doing something to my mother's cigarettes. She made me eat some of the cigarettes. Maybe this is why I never wanted to start smoking, and to this day I haven't. I was so scared of something in that house, I didn't know what that something was until we moved into our new home in Southwest Arlington, Texas. Second home in Arlington, Texas. When I was about 4 years old, I was riding my bike down the road down at the end of the block. It was a dirt road. We lived in a new development. There were wild animals that would come around at night. Anyway, woods surrounded our community. While I was riding my bicycle, 2 older kids grabbed me and pulled me to the woods behind some homes. They threw me down on a mattress. They bent the mattress in half, put me in the middle, and they proceeded to jump up and down on it. Then they tied me to a tree and started beating me. They laughed the whole time. I don't remember what they said to me or to each other, but they took much pleasure in beating and hurting me. I eventually was set free because both boys left after a while. They left me tied to that tree. I don't know for how long I was tied, but later sometime a girl a few years or so older than me heard me crying. She untied me and went to the dirt road nearby to get help. The police were called, and not too long after, the boys were caught. They were in junior high. They both went to juvenile hall because what they did to me. This is just a distant memory, but it shows what kids will do when something evil governs their whole surroundings, or something evil is trying to make a mark on your life. I started hearing and seeing things when I was very young. I'm not even sure what age I was when the torment started. I would be in my parents' bathroom, and the door would start to shake and the doorknob would twist. I always locked the door because I was always scared. I at first would think that it was my mom or my dad playing tricks on me, but I would hear them through the wall, which would put them in the living room laughing at the TV or talking to each other. Whenever things like this happened to me, which was too numerous to count, I would cry and pray to Jesus. I would ask Jesus to help me. I'd say, Jesus, help me. Now that I look back, I do remember that as soon as I started praying, the door would stop shaking and the doorknob would stop trying to turn. I would then wait a while, and then I would slowly open the door and run to the living room. I sometimes would tell my parents what happened, but I felt that they didn't believe me. I remember one night when I seen a pair of red eyes looking right at me while I was laying in my bed. I remember the eyes blinking once, but then I don't remember anything but hiding under the cover and losing consciousness. I do remember asking myself the next day if I could have seen anything else. My closet doors were a brown color, and they were closed. The eyes I seen were truly eyes, and they were red. I also could make out a body, which was usually the body of a wolf. The eyes are what I remember the most. The redness was so deep and so bright and so full of wickedness. I will never forget them trying to pierce into my soul. I haven't seen those eyes since I was a young child. Thank you, God. I had many occasions where I would wake up and see spirits floating above my bed. These spirits were full size. What I mean by this is the size of an average human. I would see them floating as as if they were going to lie on top of me. I would pull the covers over my head and cry myself to sleep. Sometimes it would seem as a dream. They would appear to me while I was in my twilight sleep. Once my mom was reprimanding my cousin and I for something we did wrong. She told us that if I didn't say we were sorry, the devil was going to get us. Then at the same moment, someone or something started to try to get into the bedroom window. My aunt and mom were in the room with us, and as far as I can remember, no one else was at our home that day. My dad was at work. Maybe my mom put someone up to it. I can't say, because I couldn't see whatever it was. My mom told me to pray, and as soon as I started praying, the scratching and banging on the window stopped. I was just so scared that I remember it today. I will never forget one night I woke up and reached under my pillow to see what the tooth fairy had left me. I found some change. I noticed that my mom was in my room, and she said to me, "Go to sleep now." I wanted her to see what the tooth fairy had left me. So I said, "Look, Mama, the tooth fairy gave me some money." I then dropped the money into her hand. I actually grabbed her hand, and with the other hand, I put the change into her hand. She told me to go to bed, and she put the money back in my hands. I then noticed that my mom had an all-black nightgown on. My mom didn't have an all-black nightgown. My mom had a black nightgown with red around the arms and the bottom of the hem. I quickly looked at her face and seen something I'll never forget. I had seen what looked to be a tattoo around the right eye. It was all the way around the eye on the skin, but wasn't very bright. It was a dull black. It was deep in the skin. I then shouted and jumped backwards and under my covers. I woke up later morning in a wet bed. It was wet with perspiration. I had passed out because of the terror I had experienced. I told my mother about it. She said that she had heard me scream, and then I was quiet, so she ignored it. My parents most of the time went to sleep in their bedroom door closed. They would sleep with a big box fan on the high setting. Later in the life, I look back, this was the first time I heard the voice of a spirit. I know that this was an angel sent to protect me, for I didn't feel threatened or scared until I seen her clothes in her eye. I don't feel that it was there to harm me. I was just a little kid, and I didn't know anything except that was my mother. It wasn't my mother. I can't explain the tattoo-looking ring around the eye. I still have to think about that sometimes. When I was in 5th grade, I played the cello at school. I missed our main concert, which was held at the University of Texas in Arlington. I was in the hospital getting a tumor removed from my chest. It was benign, thank the Lord, but I still wish I was able to have been at UTA that night. I was scheduled to play a solo, but it never happened. I remember carrying that cello, which at the time was bigger than me, to school. My mom would make me walk to school with it when she was either angry with me or was tired. It was about a mile to school. I continued playing the cello during my 6th grade year. My picture was in the Arlington paper. I was recognized as having the potential to be a great cellist, or celloist, or however you say that. That same year, before the concert at UTA, tonsillitis caused me to be very sick. I had my tonsils and adenoids removed during the time the concert was held. I didn't play the cello again after the 6th grade.